An annoying family ruined my birthday present. I consider myself a major fan of Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. Reading up on the lore of the various icons over the years and the reoccurring towns and sets was a weird fixation that got me through the pandemic. I am also a huge fan of shows like Face Off and docuseries about home haunts that has really made me appreciate the artistry involved in making a haunted house. So when I heard that they offered a behind-the-scenes tour of Halloween Horror Nights where they guide you through the houses with the lights on to talk about all the little details and tricks they use to scare people, I was beyond excited. And my friends were kind enough to all chip in to pay for me to go. So cut to the day of our tour, and in our group, which caps out at 12 people, there was a family with 2 kids, a boy about 12 and a girl about 14. And while I don't mind the thought of being in a group with kids, these people were the absolute worst. There are 3 major rules in the house. 1. Stay on the path intended for guests. 2. Don't touch anything. 3. There are certain rooms or things that you explicitly cannot take pictures of, and the guide will tell you which before you enter each area. They broke every rule. The boy was the worst of the 4. He seemed to make it his personal mission to go in and out of every hole the scare actors would hide in and stomp the effect pedal he could find. Some were even in high-up places for the actors on stilts, and he'd take running leaps at the wall to hit them. At one point he went into behind a curtain and popped out right behind me thinking I was his sister, and I nearly elbowed him. When the guide showed us a trick on using bus film to hide scares behind pictures and posters, and then every time he saw that material he'd drag his phone with the flashlight on against the wall. And heaven forbid you were next to the guide to talk or ask a question, because this brat would forcefully shoulder past you to be right in front. Even step on your feet if he needed to. He'd apologize, but when it happens more than once, what's the point of the apology when you clearly learn nothing? He once shoved past me as our guide was describing how they actually utilized shadow puppets to shove his phone behind it, stealing the guide's moment of showing us how the effect worked. And his sister wasn't much better. She would follow her brother in and out of scare holes. And she touched so many things. She even scraped a chunk of plaster off the wall from leaning on it. And I'm fairly certain her brother broke a candlestick off a wall sconce. But what infuriated me the absolute worst was the fact their parents said nothing 90% of the time. At first, when the boy was shoving past us, the mom yelled at him. But that was only one of maybe 4 instances that she did that, and he only listened to her half the time. Sometimes he would just walk back to her, and then immediately shove his way back to the front again. But they were barely any better than the kids. Granted, they weren't straying off the path, but they were still touching things. And sometimes the mom or one of the kids would just walk off into the next area without the guide and start taking pictures. That 2 seconds later the guide would take us through and say was a non-photo area. And the dad was as bad as the kids about touching things. These kids were out of pocket, and the parents just did not seem to care to do anything to correct their children's behavior, and at times it felt like they were encouraging it with their silence. And it just sucks that the tour guide was clearly irritated, but trying to continue the tour for the rest of our sake. She didn't have a walkie, which meant the only way she'd be able to kick them off the tour would have been to walk all of us back to the meetup area, which likely would have ended our tour early or completely thrown off the schedules for all the other tours. And now every memory I have of the tour just fills me with rage, because anytime I'd find myself enjoying myself, there would be one of the kids going into a place they shouldn't be or touching something they shouldn't. It's like trying to read a book with someone trying to talk to you at the same time. It's not gonna end well. And I hate that what was supposed to be a fun time with my friends turned into suffering and silent rage, trying to not scream at this family to just stand still and put their hands in their pocket. I hate that what was supposed to be my birthday present makes me so angry to look back on. It makes me feel like my friends all wasted their money. I am not in that group of people that believe kids shouldn't be allowed in haunts. But please, 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 please actually control your children out in public. Don't do what these people did and just stand to the side and watch them treat a place like it's their personal playground. If they had broken something beyond repair, no amount of money, save the fact that one of the houses could have been missing an important prop or effect because of your negligence and ruined the event for thousands of people. and ruined any chance of Universal ever doing a behind-the-scenes tour ever again.